Okay, in this screencast I'm going to demonstrate running the Mozmill tests using continuous integration. This was set up as a proof of concept and we haven't yet pushed this to production. Hopefully we'll be able to do so soon. So here is my Jenkins dashboard and here are my various jobs. The first one downloads the latest nightly build of Firefox, and that in turn triggers off the various Mozmill tests. We have add-ons test run, endurance, functional, localization and remote. So briefly looking at the download job, if I show you the configuration here, this simply checks out Mozmill automation, and within there it uses the download script. I currently have this set up to build whenever there is a new version on the stage.mozilla.org site. The execute shell, the command line, is essentially download.py, puts it in the latest nightly directory. I'm using Mac here, so the platform is Mac, and we're using the daily build of the default branch Mozilla Central. We then archive the artifacts from latest nightly directory and then build these other projects. We've set this so that it only triggers those builds if this build itself succeeds. So if I go back to my list of jobs and I'll show you, for example, the Mozmill functional tests for latest nightly. If I hover over here, you'll see that we have one test failing out of a total of 237 tests. Build stability, no recent builds failed. Now the builds are actually failing because of this failing test, but a problem currently that is known about in Mozmill automation scripts is that they will exit with a successful error code, so therefore the builds still are reported as passing. Because we've got a JUnit report now, that's analysed and it can see that there is a test failing, so it marks the build as unstable rather than failed. So if I go into here, you can see all of the builds that have been run and the test result trend. It all looks quite good, but we've got some skip tests and we've got one failing test. You can see the build history. You can click the trend and you see how long each build takes to run. These early builds here were while I was still getting it set up, so the average really should only be taken from here. So it averages around between 8 and 10 minutes. If we look at the latest build, you can see we've got several build artifacts. We've got the log file, so we can use this to investigate any issues. We've also got the raw JUnit results, which is an XML file. And these results, because they adhere to the JUnit standard, Jenkins is also able to analyze them and give us some extra details. You can see here again, 1 failure, 6 skipped. All failed tests are up the top here. If we click on this test, we'll see the error message and the full stack trace, which can help to investigate the failure. And also we've got all of the remaining passes and skip tests here. For example, test downloading is where we've got 3 tests skipped in test download states, and then we've got details for the skipped test. Okay, so that was the functional tests. Something else that's worth demonstrating is I've set up some multi-configuration builds, and this uses multiple locales. So it's essentially the same jobs. Download the latest version. Here I've just set up add-ons, localization and remote. If I go into the download one, you'll see that we've got several configuration. ENUS, DE, BR, FR and RU. These are different localizations. By clicking on one of these, let's pick German, you'll see that we've got the the artifact which is the latest nightly for the German locale. If I show you the configuration for this, you'll see this also checks out Mozmill automation. It builds whenever the URL changes for stage.mozilla.org, and we've got a user-defined access for locale, and when we've got these values here which we saw earlier, and this essentially means it will run this job once for every value here. And then in the download script we've also got locale, and this is substituted for the value in the user-defined access. As before, we archive it into latest nightly, and we build the downstream projects if this succeeds. So if we look at one of those downstream projects, in this instance I'll take the add-ons tests. You see here now we've got exactly the same configurations, but we've got some that are stable and some that are unstable. If I pick again German, we can see again we've got the log file, we've got the results files. There are two test runs in add-ons because there are two add-ons that were tested. So you can see we've got results for the first one and the second one here, and the test results combine these. So you see all tests, we've got two add-ons here. If we go into one of these, we can see the details of the actual tests in there. Okay, if I show you the configuration for this project, you see we built this after the download has completed successfully. We also have the user-defined access for the various locales. This is also really helpful. We have this on the non-multi-configuration builds also. This copies the artifacts from another project, which means that once the download is completed, we copy the downloaded file into the workspace for this job. So we're copying the latest successful build. Specifically in our case we want a locale, a certain locale. We're copying all artifacts. There's only one, which is the downloaded file, and this means when we execute the automation script we can just use full stop to say the current working directory, and that'll grab that build. Here's where we're archiving the results XML and the log file, and here's where we tell it to publish the JUnit test result report. What's really nice about the multiple locales is we can just click the test result trend, and we see here a summary of all locales and any failed tests. So we can see, for example, we've got one failed test in German and two in Russian. So yeah, that's running the Mozmill tests in continuous integration using Jenkins, and hopefully we'll be able to push this to our service soon and run these jobs on demand. Currently we're running them on a schedule on a daily basis, but that's not checking to see if there's a new build available, it's just assuming there may be a new build available. So running these triggered based on new builds available will mean that we're running them more frequently, and we're also running them as soon as we can after the build is available.